incorrect. Override denied. Your password is incorrect. Override denied. Program activated.
Hello and welcome to another Username Nerd podcast. My name is Mike Hewitt, and with me always I have
Tim Hewitt.
And what are we talking about today?
Hey, Mike, we are talking about
The Martian.
Mars attacks. What?
Mars attacks.
The Martian. We both have read the book.
And this is kind of one of those things that it's been out for a while. The
Yeah.
movie has been out
Well,
for a
we've been
while.
meaning
The
to
book's
talk
been out
about
for
it
a while.
forever.
It's like that Heat. Heat. I want to talk about it now.
Yeah.
Kind of joke.
Well, we both watched it when the movie came out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I feel like there were just other things that
I had
got
read
in the way.
I had read the book or listened to the book,
Yeah.
and literally halfway through and didn't know there was a movie coming out.
Yeah.
And I finished it before the movie came out to the theaters. Was really going to go out to the theaters and see it. Missed it and bought it about a month ago, and really only watched it the last 2 nights.
Yeah. What do you think of the actual movie versus the book?
I liked it a lot. There was big chunks that were missing, but that's fine.
Yeah, even
because
you
they
can
had to
only
do it with
take
time.
so much
They
to put it in the
had
book.
to do
Yeah.
that with time.
And put it in the movie, yeah.
yeah. So
I think so. For those of you who don't know, The Martian is the story of some astronauts who go to Mars. One of them, Mark Watney, gets stranded on Mars, and it's all about his survival story of how he survives on an alien planet.
And it really felt like a true kind of. It's obviously not a true story, but it felt
felt,
like
yeah.
a document, not a
very
documentary, but
rooted
like based
in
on
reality.
a true story.
Yeah.
Which is very good because it's not science fiction, but it kind of
Well, it is.
It's rooted
but
in.
you're right. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. It's a closer science fiction than a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. And I see this something that in a couple of years we're doing. In 15 years, this could happen. Very well happen.
Well, you know what? A funny side effect of all this is I actually found there's a guy who developed the Mars Pathfinder rover, which they touch on in the movie, and he has a YouTube channel. He became sort of 15 Minutes of Famous from he developed
15 Minutes of Fame. Not famous.
No, 15 Minutes of Famous. It's like a.
Is that what it's called?
like a. Well, there are. Yes, this is your 15 Minutes of Fame. 15 Minutes of Famous means you only saw him 15 minutes. He was gone. It's kind of the same.
Gotcha.
Never mind.
I have
It
no
doesn't
idea.
matter.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter really.
Okay.
Anyway, he developed this shirt with an iPad. You put the iPad in the front of your shirt, and you put the iPad in the back of your shirt. It looks like you can see through.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a hole.
That's cool.
And he was on the news and all this stuff. And I remember hearing about that, but I found his YouTube channel because of that. And he does a bunch of let's support local science departments and yada yada yada. And he's very active in his background. But anyway, that was just a weird side effect of watching this movie. I did more research into the Mars rover program.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about, first of all, what are some of the things that really stood out in the story to you? I liked Mark Watney, the astronaut who got stranded on Mars. I liked his attitude.
Yes.
He was very
I didn't really know if what's his name could do it. Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Could do it because I pictured him more of a more burly,
serious
big guy.
kind of guy. Yeah.
Not as serious, but big guy.
Really?
More like a truck driver kind of.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
lumberjack.
Yeah, kind of that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that's just the way I read into it, and then seeing, but he did really well.
He did
Matt
really
Damon
good.
Very well.
Well, and there's so many things where he, when they ask for the picture, because the publicist on Earth, it becomes a big story of Mark Watney's still alive, and they ask for a picture, and it's him putting his thumbs up like the Fonz or something like that. Because I guess when he's up there, all he has to watch is a bunch of 70s TV.
Ugh, yeah.
Which, okay, my thing is also, if you can save probably, let's say, hundreds of hours of 70s TV onto one little flash drive, she's the only one that brought TV shows. Nobody else brought TV shows with them on a little flash drive.
Yeah, I know. Well, some of that stuff was still on the ship. Some of it was
true.
They
I
left
guess
quickly,
that makes sense.
so I'm guessing that's kind of how it was.
But I don't know. I mean, I liked the cast, especially.
The cast was really good.
The cast was really good, right? And I know we're talking more about the movie than the book right now, but we'll get to it. The pilot guy.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I don't know his name. We have.
I think he's like every drug dealer possible.
Yeah, but he's really funny.
Michael Pinier.
Michael Pinier. So when he's writing Mark Watney for the first time, and he's like, "Hey, we had to divvy up your chores, but it's only botany, so who cares?"
Yeah, I know.
Like all these little like one-sided quips towards him, which
Exactly.
anybody else would be like, "Oh man, that's so mean. Why is it saying that?" But they're a good tight crew, so they get it. And
The one thing I remember him in was Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, and he was the agent
You're
that
right.
took him down.
You're
That was yeah. He played so he's not always been.
I get him, and I know I have no reason to, but I get him and Louise Gusniani or whatever, the guy that's the claim of fame from the College of Community. And he's like, Louise Guzmaz or something like that.
I have no.
Never mind. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
From Community?
Yeah, if in Community, he's like the one famous person that went to that college, so they make a bronze statue of him, and they don't
Really?
ask him. And because he's like semi-famous, and then he calls them, and they think he's gonna be like, "Hey, you can't make a statue of me," but he's like, "Hey, I love it. Yeah, that's great." And he comes by, but it's also at the same time they're having a paintball tournament, so he comes by
that's
and it's
right.
just like wrecked. Everything's destroyed. Way side tangent. Sorry. Okay, so the Martian. So he gets stranded up there on Mars, Michael.
Yes.
And
gets
you know
stranded
how
up
he
on
survives?
Mars. Aliens come.
No, that's close. He brings potatoes with him. Why don't you explain
the
why?
The first thing is in the book. Maybe I'm just forgetting this, but does he get impaled?
Yeah.
That's how he gets impaled.
Well, it's like from what I understand, it's like a satcom antenna. So it is.
That
a
was
bigger
true. The story. I
piece?
just don't remember that. It was like 6 months ago. That was
Oh,
the one
yeah.
part I didn't remember.
No, yeah,
I
he
thought
really gets
I thought
impaled.
it cracked his helmet, and he had
That
epoxy.
happens later on.
Yeah, I know, but I thought he had epoxy. I thought that was
No,
but okay,
no.
so,
In this
okay.
one, he gets like there's this big sandstorm blows up, and they all get ready to leave. He gets impaled by this huge comm antenna that flies off the
Yeah.
escape thing, and it's this big piece of metal, but there's one skinny rail that goes through his suit and through him and out the other side, I guess.
Yeah.
But he said that he would have died except for the blood pooled up around his exit wounds and sealed up. But he wakes up and I guess pulls it out of him. No,
Yeah.
no, he doesn't pull it out of him. He cuts it and leaves it in him, then gets inside and pulls it out of him.
Oh, God.
Man, staples himself up,
Yeah, I
does
saw
all this
that,
sort of
yeah.
surgery stuff. It's crazy.
That was some things I'd completely forgotten about
Oh.
in the book. I just remember him. Yeah. So,
And
okay.
it's funny too because the movie is very accurate to the book.
It's very accurate
to the
to the
point
book.
where if you read the book and watch the movie immediately after, like I did, the script, what people are saying is word
Yeah.
for word.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
I've not seen that. I mean, and like I said, they've left some big parts, like the trip from Eris
Alicia
3 to Eris
Plandalia,
4.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, when he makes that trip, that's a long part of
Yeah,
the book,
yeah.
and it's like 5 minutes.
gloss over it,
Yeah, they
yeah.
gloss over it. I mean,
But
because I remember he goes through that storm,
Yeah.
that dust storm, that fog that he doesn't even know. He just thinks that the things are the what do you call it? The
mountains or ridges or whatever.
no, the solar panels are getting less and less.
Oh yeah, but
And
he
it's
doesn't realize he's
but
in
he
a
doesn't
storm.
realize he's in a storm, so he has to go out and do that. That was one big part.
Okay, so quick thing about that is they say the storm in the very beginning of the movie, the storm that caused the comm tower to fall and all that stuff,
Yeah.
it was threatening to tip the LAV or whatever, the leaving atmosphere
Yeah.
vehicle. They said that would never actually happen. I've watched a lot of things. I'm
Really?
like, is the science accurate? So because Mars has such a lower atmosphere than us, it would be able to pick up dust. Yes, but they said picture it this way and they actually did a little demonstration where they had a fan and they mixed like dust, like dirt together with sand, and then you dump it out on above the fan. The dust goes flying, but the salt pretty much goes straight down, maybe a little bit at an angle. There would be tons of dust everywhere, but because of the low atmosphere, that's about all you're getting from the particulates that would actually cause damage, like the sand and stuff like that.
There's not
It
much of
wouldn't
an
really fly around.
atmosphere to actually blow something over.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So, but they said the second storm, that storm you just mentioned,
Is
that's
more
more what it
accurate.
would be like. It would just be a huge dust, very thin.
You wouldn't
But
even know you're in the
immense.
storm
Yeah.
until it's too late. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting part too, where he's trucking along and then he realizes that he's in this storm. That's why his solar panels have been taken in less and less. He thinks they're broken, doesn't he? And then,
Yeah. And he thinks they're broken, and that's the other thing. He shorts out I just watched the movie last night. In the book, he shorts out the rover, the little rover thing.
Yeah.
What is it?
When during that last trip, the rover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that little bitty rover here. He's talking with
the Pathfinder.
The Pathfinder. He shorts that out. Mm-hmm. And so he has no communications, and they changed that too, because that's a big part of the book, but not necessarily. I mean, the ending was very important, and I could see they'd go forever if they put everything in the book. I think they
changed a few things, but stayed true to the full story.
And what I mean by that is they did take some stuff out, but I'm totally fine with it. It's stuff that they had to because they just couldn't. Yeah, I'm totally fine.
It would have been too much and too big, but. Okay, so he gets stuck up on there on Mars. How does he survive, Mike? Why don't you mention why he brings potatoes?
Back to food. The problem is he's going to be there for a very long time.
Like over a year and a half, 2 years, something like that?
Yeah, they're talking 400 to 800 days, which could be almost 4 years. I think he only lasts it's a year and a half.
Well, they say sols, too, which is Mars rotation around the sun, not Earth's, right?
Right, yeah, and that is a 28-hour day, so it's 4 hours more. Pretty sure.
I think that sounds right. No, that sounds about right. If we're wrong, sue us, whatever. We'll be fine.
But the whole thing is, he needs food, and there's not enough food to be rationed out. And I think they take him down to like 600 to 800 calories,
which is like a bite of one of those little protein bar thingy.
It's ridiculous. Try doing it. I don't think people can live under 14. So
I have no idea. I'm obviously well above that every day, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, and then if you lose too much, and I only did this because last October and November I was on a I was a weight loss challenge.
That's right.
And I was in it to win it. I mean, I was going to win it and do
there was money on the line.
There was money on the line. I lost, and I was losing 4 or 5 pounds. No, I was losing 3 to 4 pounds a week. And apparently that's bad, and my doctor got really onto me and had to do crazy tests because they were like, you're losing too much, and they would not allow me to lose any more, and they had to do all kinds of tests and stuff.
That's awesome.
Because you could do major damage to your gallbladder and liver and all kinds of stuff.
You were talking about the calorie intake.
Yeah,
per day.
The calorie intake.
He doesn't have enough calorie intake per day.
But luckily they have Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving dinner they thought would be great because everything is freeze dries and packaged. And once you freeze dry it, golly. And it's not like putting something in your freezer. What you actually do is take dry ice, and there's no crystals. It actually solidifies, and it goes for a very long time. And if you want to save food for a very long time, don't throw it in. I mean, you can throw it in your freezer, but if you want it to last even longer, take some dry ice and just throw it on dry ice, and it will immediately freeze.
I didn't actually know that's what that meant.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
And you're killing all the bacteria and everything else, and so nothing will grow, and no seeds will grow, and everything else.
No seeds will be germinated or no.
Exactly. But they decided because the crew will be up there during Thanksgiving, they brought a meal for them to actually prepare. So real potatoes, cutting them up, and
potatoes.
Yes, and so because of that, he actually has potatoes to grow.
Which, my thing is, does a potato have to have an eye to sprout?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
For some reason, I thought it did.
And they kind of do.
He was talking about cutting them. He cuts them up into like little pieces and then plants them. But I thought he mentioned that like in the book he mentions like each chunk had an eye in it.
It could, yeah.
Which
I think they all have eyes, right? And not the little divots.
Yeah. So there's eyes all over the potato. Yeah. But
yeah, I don't know. I think that's where it kind of grows out.
I think he kind of like purposely cut them to where each little piece he planted had an eye in there.
But then he takes Martian soil.
The master of botany.
No, he takes Martian soil and mixes it with human feces that it's already.
Which I read up on that science.
I thought that was not okay. So here, before you do that, I have not read up on it.
Go ahead.
Basically, they take their crap and it
Yeah.
puts in a bag and
Yeah.
throws it outside. So he gets them, which
Yeah.
are frozen.
Yeah, at that point, there's no
There's
bacteria
no bacteria.
involved in
So
it
how do they grow?
because of the poop that he didn't. Sorry, the feces that he didn't. Let's try and keep it a little highbrow here. Feces he didn't throw outside from himself.
Okay,
has
so in
bacteria
the
it,
movie, because he was
and that
grabbing stuff
bacteria
from
is
outside.
spreading through the other stuff that's already been sanitized by
Interesting.
putting outside. But they said that, like, yeah, the main thing you're missing in the Martian soil is bacteria.
Right.
And they said that while human feces would offer bacteria throughout, if you were to turn it and kind
Right.
of, mix it around, it doesn't have all the essential bacteria to grow
Really.
ideally. So they said it might work, but chances are it's not going to.
Well,
Even if you're spreading feces around or whatever.
I'm sure someone could figure it out. I mean, I'm
No.
sure you could put some dirt
Well,
and
you're
freeze
talking
dries
about-
the dirt.
Well,
so
but you're
it's-
talking about the soil up in Mars that he's mixing everything with is not really soily. It's more sandy, but then
Right.
also it doesn't have any bacteria at all in it. So the only bacteria you're getting into the soil
right, is from you.
is from you. Yeah.
And I'm sure someone could do that. That's what I'm trying to
No.
say. I mean, because you could get dirt and you could either freeze dry it or you can kill all the
Oh,
bacteria.
true. I see what you're saying.
and
Do that
then
experiment
do
here
your
on
own
Earth.
experiment and see
Yeah.
if it works or not.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone out there do that.
I mean,
and
they said
then
it could work. It could
email us
Yeah, somebody do that.
at comments and username nerd. Ugh.
Actually, don't let us know. Just send Mike
You
pictures.
know what? We'll
and,
put you on the. We'll put you on air.
For that, yes.
Yes.
You eat
Go
your
ahead,
own
I'm
poop
sorry.
potatoes. We'll put you
Oh,
on there.
eat your own poop potatoes.
But they said that science was pretty realistic.
Oh, that's
like,
cool.
They said it's kind of a 50-50. It might work, it might not work. They said because Mark Watney was a botanist, probably had a better chance than most people, but
Interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting.
The other thing was the big thing that they had was the suits. Their space suits. Now, I've heard 50-50 on this, too. I've heard that some of them say that they're way too thin, they're way too flexible. There's no way, because in order to provide the shielding you would need for the radiation that you're getting,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't have it be that thin. Then I've heard other people say that that's not true, that there's these new suits that are coming out that's like a
Right.
stretch. It'd almost be like wearing a scuba suit
Right.
outside.
Interesting.
But I know in the movie they show him check his watch, and he pulls back like a flap on his suit, and you see the watch face, but then you see exposed skin right next to his watch.
Really.
And I thought to myself, like, that cannot be right. That must be just faux pas in the movie. 'Cause
And they're good. And did they say anything about that?
Nope, nothing.
Nope.
Just moved right over it. I
There-
just happened to notice it, and I was like, that's not
interesting. Did you
right.
catch anything else that you thought was wrong, science-wise?
When his helmet cracked, his eyes didn't start bugging out of his head, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger on Mars. No,
There was one I saw that was pretty
Okay.
bad. It was close to the end. I think it was the girl who's in charge.
Yeah.
Johansson?
Yeah,
Or
that's
is that
him.
no? Johansson's the other one. Anyways,
Okay,
she
I'll look it-
comes.
yeah.
She comes. There's an L tube, and it's obviously there's no gravity whatsoever. And she comes
Oh,
down and then goes this way. There was no.
Well,
I mean,
wasn't she wearing like a suit? Are you talking about when she's outside the ship or when
no,
she's
she was
inside the ship?
inside this suit
Yeah,
with
that's
just
not cool.
clothes. Yeah, and she goes. she's. It looks like she's falling down, and then she all of a sudden goes forward.
Yeah, and
Which
in zero
there's-
G.
in 0G, you're going
How
the
are you
same
doing that?
direction. There's no way, unless you had something you pushed off or grabbed something.
I just had this realization. Like, is it petty of us?
I know.
To just pick apart the-
totally pick
He
apart.
had a piece of exposed
I
skin.
know. I know.
She's floating in midair, but she changed direction.
I
Like,
just, because I was so
Yeah.
immersed, I'm like, all
Yeah.
of it seems so good, and for that one little thing was like, oh, it's fine, it's fine, but that wouldn't happen.
But for that to be the only two
I
things
know,
we can really
right?
pick out of there is pretty dang good. They
because
did a really
I've
good
seen
job.
some other movies, Gravity, I don't
I
like.
never watched Gravity.
Gravity's pretty bad. I don't know.
Interstellar. Did you see Interstellar?
I've seen Interstellar.
that one was pretty
I liked Interstellar.
realistic. I liked
yeah,
it. All right, so
pretty far out
oh
there.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you would
It's
have-
a mind trip, but
it's
yeah,
a mind trip.
I'll say that they talked about the suit. Then the other thing that really got me. Okay, so I couldn't remember if it was in the book or in the movie. I know in the movie I saw it, but I don't remember it being in the book. And maybe you can tell me if you remember.
Okay,
Eventually, he goes into the airlock, and the airlock explodes.
right.
His helmet cracks, and he has to
Yes.
put on like tape stuff to fix his
Yes.
helmet. But then he gets inside. All his potatoes are gone now because he was growing his potatoes inside the
Do you remember
habitat.
that part in the book?
Yes, I remember all
Okay.
this. I'm leading up to. I'm sorry. He gets inside. Everything's destroyed, so he has to now dig up the potatoes that I've already got and live off of those until
Right.
the hope for
Right.
building is gone. But he takes plastic, Havcam,
Uh-huh.
which I don't know what this Havcam is, but they mention it so many times in the books, and I want some of this because this Havcam must be like indestructible, and stretches it over the airport hole
Right.
and just like bungees it down and tapes it down.
Yeah, see,
And he's like, fine, and then repressurizes the Hav, which then later on there's like a storm going on,
yeah,
and he's
no.
sitting there, like, counting
freaking
rations.
out, yeah.
and he's just like, and the Hav's just in the background. You can see it just implode and outplode, and you know.
Well, think about it. You're feeling it's grabbing air from outside. Or it's
Yeah.
producing air, and it's pushing against that, and so no air's coming in. It's only going out. Think of it as like an air mask, where you have you're blowing it out, but when you come in, you when you breathe in, you're just blowing out.
That
Does
kind of
make
makes sense, I guess. Now, was that in the book though?
Oh,
Was that distinctly in the book, or do you remember it in
the
I
book?
only remember it in the movie.
In the book, when the airlock blows,
yeah,
he loses an arm. Remember, he has to keep an arm in the suit and ties
you're
up his
right.
arm.
I do remember that
Because he only has one arm, and he's trying to get a helmet
Ham tab,
too. Because
yeah.
his helmet's broken too. He goes in, and the hab is inflated, so he's having to lift up.
Oh,
that
I
was
don't
not
remember
in
that
there
either.
too. Yeah, in the book,
Yeah.
he's lifting up, and he's like moving it around.
That's interesting.
Because it's like an inflated tent.
Mhm.
So that was one part, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, there's no way that would be so tough to film.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, because
Yeah, there's a few changes I understand. They
he's
had
going
to do
through
it for them. Yeah.
so much, and dude, this guy just loses the bad luck.
Okay, but the
lottery.
fact that he taped Havcam over the airport, whatever, and repressurized the Hav. Do you remember that in the book? Obviously, it happened because I just don't remember the fact that he was sitting there in the storm and it was blowing back and forth.
Yeah,
and
he
freaking
was
out.
he freaks out in the book.
Yeah. Which I imagine, I mean, in his head, he just had to be like, okay, at any moment I could be dead,
Yeah.
but I'm not dead, so
Yeah.
I got to keep going.
Yeah.
But at any moment that could happen. Just get over it and move. That's got to be so tough. But
Yeah.
I say it like it's not. But yeah.
I know.
All right, so then let's say he now has enough food to make it to where he can get to the leaving the planet vehicle, whatever, far away.
And he has
So-
to pack up everything and
Yeah.
move that across.
That's the other thing where he gets his water filter and his air filter,
Yeah.
and like disassembles
Well,
that from the.
Let's go back. I mean, producing water was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that's right, because he gets
Let's-
hydrogen
yeah,
fuel.
let's not even go
and-
that. Yeah, he goes hydrogen
Oh my
fuel and makes
gosh.
his own water, which I was like, that is really cool.
That science,
Yeah.
accurate,
Yes.
absolutely accurate. I was like, that's amazing.
I was explaining to Missy, I was like, it's amazing. You can take elements that are just so dangerous and put them together and make things like salt and water and air and just it's just little atoms that you put them together. It's crazy what you can do, and it's crazy what science is and what
Well,
we
he
are made
almost
of.
blows himself up in
Yes,
the process. I mean, so it's
because-
not just like it's not.
Because he didn't remember to calculate
for-
his own
yeah.
air. He's breathing.
Isn't that
in and out.
crazy?
I know. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's just fascinating and nuts. And then the next thing was before
So
we
he
go on
makes
that
water.
trip, he makes water. Going on that trip to
get the Mars rover
mhm.
lander or whatever.
The
So
Pathfinder.
they don't know. That's the other thing. On Earth, they thought he was dead. Then they see him on the satellites,
I was gonna say that.
and they don't know what he's doing when he's going to find
I
the
know.
Pathfinder. So they're like, "What in the world is he doing? What is he doing?"
I know.
And then finally it goes to one guy in the control room, and he's like, "Hang on, I think I might know where he's
And
going."
they run, and that's true to the book too, where he grabs
the
something
map
off the
in the
wall.
gift shop
yeah.
or something like
yeah.
that. Like,
And it goes down. He's like, that's right. And I think it's supposed to be 2035. I think that
Oh,
is
like
with
future or
his
whatever?
book. So that's
I don't know.
25 years. It's 25 years that Pathfinder is there. They said that
Hmm.
it probably wouldn't be completely underground. Oh, and before we even go there,
he digs up that
He digs
radiation
up the
thing.
radiation
oh my
thing,
Gosh, that's right.
which I find just fascinating.
Well, because he's like, I guess he can't afford the power for heat
Yeah.
to make the long trip to get the Pathfinder. So he's like, I know what I'll do. I'll dig up this
Oh.
radioactive generator that we specifically say to bury far away from the camp and put a big flag so we know never to dig it up.
And it's just little bitty pellets of radioactive power.
And that's
as long
what's
as you don't open
keeping
it up,
him-
you're fine.
And so the radioactive is what's keeping him warm.
Yeah.
And he's like, I should be more concerned about this, but I am on an alien planet.
I know, right? I
by
know.
myself.
I know.
Like, there's much more bigger worries.
But yeah, the Pathfinder thing was really cool.
That's cool.
and-
So that's how he talks to Earth.
right.
Because all the comms are down and everything like that. So he finds Pathfinder, reactivates that, but all they can talk to him is through a camera on the Pathfinders.
Right, and he's like 26 letters is too much. You wouldn't be able to tell the things. So he does, a hexadecimal axis table, and I was just
Which
like,
I had no
oh
idea
my
what that
gosh,
was.
Really?
I had to
That's
look it
something-
up. I actually paused the movie and look it up.
Really?
I was like, okay.
It's basically
Like a big circle.
and no, it's a way of counting. So instead of going to 10 and then so you go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 and then you go down to 11. Basically you go through 16. So you go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and then you go A B C D, you have the zero. You have the zero on there.
You know
have
what
A, B, C through F.
related it to was T9. Do you remember on old cell phones before you had touchscreen, you had just the number pad,
Right.
and if you wanted to text, if you wanted to do A, you would hit
Oh,
1 once. If you wanted to B, you do 1
Yeah, basically
twice.
you imagine you have 16 fingers, and so when you go to 16, then you start
Awesome.
over. Yeah. So from 1
Okay.
to 10 would be 16.
Yeah.
So that's and they've it's a more accurate way because
Well, it's much faster.
you
way
can't
of
divide by 3.
communicating.
Yeah, I mean can't divide by 4 and all kinds of different stuff.
But then they said that that was another thing they gave the movie a lot of kudos in the book
Yes.
too, is the actual time it took to communicate back and forth between Mars. was
Yes.
something like 24 minutes, something
yes.
like that. Like
24 minutes for round trip, 12 minutes there, 12 minutes back. Yeah.
and they even they say at one point they're like, well, we lose satellite coverage over his portion of Mars for 13 minutes, and he's like, get it down to 7.
Yeah.
He's like, figure out a way. We
Yeah.
gotta move some of our satellites and stuff like that.
It's
So
really cool.
it's cool.
What did you think of NASA and all that?
I heard it was very accurate. Oh, well, first of all, they talked about these aren't really my opinions; these are other people's opinions.
Right.
But whatever, they talked about how they did a good job of representing all different types of nerds.
Right.
It wasn't just all these guys with pocket protectors and
Yeah.
tape on their glasses. There were different types of scientists and
Yeah.
everything else. And then also the fact that they all liked Lord of the Rings was ravingly accurate. I
Yes.
was like, oh my gosh.
The fascinating part is when they're in that room and they have the Council of what is
Council of Elrond.
Council of
Project
Elrond.
Elrond.
it? Sean Bean is sitting right there, and he was in
Really?
the council. Remember?
I never put those two together. You're right.
He is the guy who dies straight after that. So he's actually in the council
Roundy,
twice in the
Roundy
movie.
McFightshield.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. He's in both. So
That's
I
crazy.
laughed my butt off when I saw him as in the.
My gosh, I never put this together. That's him. He's like the therapist guy, right?
Yes, when he doesn't. When he's a therapist guy.
He's like he's the guy who's like, you
He's
should
the-
let them decide.
He's the guy in charge of the team.
Yeah,
From
yeah. He's always advocating for the team. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
he's like the leader. He's the one that talks to the team and everything else.
Randy McShite.
When he does not, I know, when he doesn't have a beard, he looks totally different.
he really does. Yeah.
I mean, he was the bad guy in GoldenEye,
Yeah,
and he's
I
been all
remember that.
kinds of things. But yeah,
Okay, so then let's talk about the final journey then.
yeah.
Leading into the final journey, one of the things I really enjoyed,
Well, the trip,
The last trip, yeah,
of
yeah.
you driving, yeah.
the thing I really, really enjoyed the most out of the entire game, or entire movie and book was when he starts talking about him being a pirate. Which
Yes.
he goes into this big long explanation of how since he
I
was
know.
piloting a vessel across unknown
Mhm.
territory or whatever that could technically fall under maritime law, which means he could be a space pirate. And he's like, Mark Watney, space pirate.
I know.
Just the way he explains it and the way he does it all, it's so good.
The funny part, the girl back home in NASA, she like gets it and she turns and talks to him. He's like, yeah, we already know the space pirate thing. We figured it out ourselves. Like they already know about it too. They've thought about it too.
Which, well, no, and like something happens. He's like, space pirate. He's like, what do you think he means by that? And he goes, well, technically under maritime law. Like, and he goes, no, we get it. Yeah. The other thing was, he's communicating with people back home, and they tell him like he's got to do something. Oh, that comes to the very end. So never mind. That's the very, very end. So he's going on the trip. He extracts the oxygenator, the water replication system or whatever.
Yeah, and he's got a pretty good tent outside.
That's right. He
the side where they kind of made it above it.
Yeah,
but he has it on the outside of it on the side.
Because they have him just totally tear apart that rover and rebuild it and do all sorts of things.
It's ridiculously crazy.
So each day he has to drive, and then each day after he's done driving, he has to set out his solar panels.
And I'm pretty sure
then wait and recharge.
It's from like Kansas City to Florida. Long.
It's a long trip.
And I was like, and I was telling Missy, I'm like, you're going about 15, 20 miles an hour. And she was like, well, you could get there. I'm like, I was like, it's like 4 or 5 months. She's like, you can get there. I'm like, well, remember, he can only drive like 6 hours.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then he's got to sit.
Whatever the ratio is, let's say it was 6 hours of travel.
It was like 18 hours.
It's 12 hours of charge. So it's 1/3.
Yeah, it's 18 hours of not driving. You're just sitting there.
Gosh.
I mean, you could literally feels like you walk faster.
It's crazy. But he makes that whole trek, and I like how he saves back certain meals, certain rations.
Yeah.
It's like, day before I leave, he writes on it and stuff like that. That's kind of a cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's eating. There's like a certain point where he's eating so many potatoes, and he's constantly talking to the camera as like a notebook thing.
He's like, it's been 7 days
since I ran out of ketchup. I was
he
like,
just stares. And one of the nights, like, he finds out that something, and he's like, I'm just gonna have this potato with Vicodin. I'm like, oh
that's
my
right.
Gosh.
He goes, so I'm crushing up this Vicodin, and I'm gonna eat this potato with it, and there's nothing that nobody can do now. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Golly. But then when he leaves for that trek, it's like, I don't know, it's almost a year in.
Yeah.
He is skinny as crap, and that cannot be Matt Damon. That has to be
I don't think so either.
double.
I think that they reversed Captain America.
Yes. Yeah, it's
something
bad. And so, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and he looks all disheveled and stuff like that. He's got a huge beard, and he's space piratey.
So I don't know. And Missy's like, is he cutting it because he wants to look good? I'm like, I don't know if he's cutting it because of the weight.
I think he's cutting it because all of a sudden he looked at himself and he's like, I'm getting ready to go see other human beings for the first time, and oh man, I look kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know.
So he.
And the last thing on that trip before he gets there is
go ahead. So
he flips the.
I was gonna ask. Does he flip the rover?
He flips the rover, right on the lip of that
the crater or whatever.
And which is not good because that crater will cause a shadow, and if it causes a shadow, he won't get any solar.
That's right.
It'll be bad. And so he flips it, and it's not good. I mean, it like ruins a lot of stuff, and he just barely gets there. Anyways, go ahead.
No, that's right, because he said he was going down like a flat plane, but he didn't. He couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the ground gave out.
Shifted, and he was going like 5 miles an hour.
Yeah,
something ridiculously.
Like, really? I was like he was tearing down this hill.
And since it wasn't in the movie, all I can think of it in the book is he's going like and then like flips over. I'm like
Tremors
what?
or something.
I know, like all of a sudden it's like a bungee, springboard underneath it. It just throws the whole thing. I'm just like I couldn't grasp but it made I went with it. So, but then him actually getting to the
he gets to the LAV. I think it's LAV. If it's not, whatever.
Yeah, it's LAV.
And then NASA finally tells him what all he has to do to make weight to leave the atmosphere of Mars.
And if you haven't seen this and you want us to explain what he's actually going to, he's at Ares 4?
4, yeah.
And he's going to Ares 5, which Ares 5, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if it's Ares 3.
He's like Ares 3.
Ares 3, and he's going to Ares 4.
Because he's going to Ares 5. They skipped a mission.
Oh, did they skip a mission? And basically this was... they send the ship beforehand.
Yeah, they send the escape vehicle down
beforehand before they even ship the crew and everything else.
So that's right, because there's this whole thing where they were like, we can save them, we can send them more supplies, and they build a rocket
Oh, and it explodes.
Because they forgot that some of their food pellets could be
Liquefied,
liquefied if they get too violent.
If they shake, they liquefy.
Like, really? So that explodes, and then China supports
Which I thought was really cool,
another
too.
rocket. Well, that's
They give
kinda
him the
interesting
booster.
because they were like, the guy who was in charge of the whole Chinese space program
Mhm.
was like, this kind of sucks for us. And he goes, no, you're going to get a guy on Mars because that was the deal they
Yeah.
made. And he goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, listen, for China, this was our first,
Right.
a satellite that was going to go far, far, far out. He goes, we will be what, the second or third person on Mars? Or, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of sucks for them, but they did it.
The other
And-
thing, I thought that was really cool. The kind of sucky part about this is when this was written, there was a NASA program.
yeah.
There is not a
Not
NASA
anymore.
program. Literally, almost a little bit after this, there is no
Yeah.
NASA, and so this will probably not happen with NASA. This will never happen.
It'll be
with NASA.
some other program, you think?
Well, it'll either be
Version.
privately,
Yeah.
or it'll be Russia or someone else doing this.
Yeah.
It will not be NASA, unless another president comes in and says we need to do this. But I just don't see
I don't
it
see
happening.
it happening either.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
it's kind of sad.
Yeah, really, that's the part that was sad. And Missy's watching the shuttle with all the supplies in it and stuff like that. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's great!" And I'm like, "Oh no, I just know what's going to
Yeah.
happen." I'm like, "Oh,
Oh, man.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
not
that's
gonna
good."
be
And then it
good.
blows up, and she's like, looks at me. I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry."
No spoilers.
Oh man, but he
um,
actually gets the LEV,
yes,
and that's
and
when
they have
just
him-
go ahead and tell
They
him
have him strip everything out. They have him take out
everything.
all the control consoles, all the other chairs. They're like, well, how will you steer the ship? And they go, he don't need to steer the ship.
Yeah.
They will steer the ship from... Oh, that's right. So the main Mars mission, which has now gone back to Earth,
Yes.
slingshots around Earth and starts to come back. Because that's how he's getting back. Is
Yes.
He's going to meet up with the main Mars mission.
Which is
and-
Donald Glover. I like,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
like it. Yeah.
I wish he would have had a kind of a bigger role in this
I
movie,
know.
but
I
it
know.
was good.
It
It
was
was a
good.
good role, and it really.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he's doing other stuff. So he has to strip out all the control consoles. He even has to take the main nose cone off of the
Mhm.
LAV and replace it with half cam.
Yeah.
Which that's what I said, man.
Yeah.
If I had.
Yeah.
If I knew what this half cam was made of, I would buy a lot of it because this thing's apparently like more powerful than steel. I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah. The one part about that, they slingshot back, and the crew decides, we're going to do it. And they make the decision themselves. And when they talk to the people at home, it was Johansson. Johansson is not the redhead leader, which I don't know, but she's the other girl.
The other girl, yeah.
She's that real skinny girl.
Yeah.
And she's talking to her parents, and she's like, "Are you going to be okay?" and everything else. And she kind of says, "I do know this. No matter what, I will be okay." And they were like, "What do you mean by that?" And there's
that's
a
right.
she will be the last one. If they run out of food or stuff like that, she will be the last one.
remember
She will be eating everybody else.
Ugh.
Yeah. So
That's
she will be the
messed up.
last, and they've all agreed and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're I mean, the way they are dedicated and just like no
yeah.
doubt will go back. I mean, like just
Which
like,
is
oh
awesome,
my
yeah.
gosh, yeah,
But that's pretty intense.
that's loyal, yeah.
Well, so they send Mark Watney all these instructions, and this is the part I was talking about earlier where I really love, but the communication back and forth. And
right.
he's like, they send him all the instructions, and he sends back, "Are you effing serious?"
I know.
And the guy there in Mission Control, he's like, "How do you think he means that? Like, you think he means like, are you serious? Or you think he means like, are you serious?" Like, it's just this kind of like, maybe we can put a spin onto where we
I
think
know.
he actually enjoys what we're doing.
The one cool thing, the Pathfinder, he shorts out the Pathfinder and he loses communication for a very long time.
that's right.
And he spells it with rocks. That
Yeah.
was part of the movie. That wasn't in the movie. as
You're
well.
right. You're right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Because there's
yeah.
one point like he hurts his back and he doesn't have communication, and he goes out a few days later and
Yeah.
puts "I'm okay," you
Yeah.
know, like in rocks, and he goes, "They must have been worried sick."
freaking out.
right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Because you could have, you spend millions and billions and trillions of
Oh, yeah.
dollars sending someone out, and he could have
He
just
died
oh,
on
something,
something happened.
yeah, the
Who
windshield
knows?
cracked.
Well, so he gets off the planet. He gets in this modified LAV, gets off the planet, and the people that are coming to get him are going too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So they blow up part of their ship. to decelerate themselves.
I love I mean, they are live with
Oh yeah.
the world.
Oh yeah.
And they just shut communications off to talk about, is this really going to happen? Are we going to have a live explosive in a spaceship? That's not a good thing. But yeah, I know. It was really cool.
And even then, they're going a little bit crazy, a little bit wonky. So Mark Watney's like, okay, I have an idea. I'm going to cut a hole in my suit, and I'm going to use the air propelling from it to push myself towards you like Iron Man.
Well, that on the cone was that whatever material you keep talking about.
The half cam.
That half cam, and that drag from it, like it fell, and the drag from it was what slowed him down. And yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
And then he becomes Iron Man. Go ahead, I'd explain. I
well,
love
so
that
then,
they did that.
he gets out and he goes, yeah, I'm going to use the air from my suit to propel me towards you. And she goes, that's awful idea. And he goes, well, the good news is I'll get to fly around like Iron Man.
I know.
And then he does it, and he gets to her.
Yeah.
Because she goes outside the suit with a, I knew it was going to happen. And I put my phone on silent, but I forgot alarms go through silent. She gets outside the ship and goes towards him with a little, rocket booster thing.
Yeah.
They catch in midair, and the entire time they catch in midair, I'm like, I was on the.
I know.
Even knowing that he makes it, I was
know.
on the edge of my seat because I'm like, oh man, one small move.
Know. Missy,
fly out into space forever.
I know. Missy turns to me. She's like, "This better have a good ending." I'm
man.
like, "Yeah, it has a good ending."
So he makes it though, and they get back home.
And they get back in, and that's really where the book ends.
Yeah.
And they put a little bit more in the movie.
They had him like teaching at a.
I thought that was very interesting and kind of cool. Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
And it said Soul 1. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that was either.
Because
I think at that point
immediately
he
after.
actually died on Mars.
I know. It's a dream.
This is his afterlife.
Just a fascinating book. I love the science in it. It makes you just like, yes, science. I love it. It's really,
well, not only
really
that,
good.
it was a really, really good story of survival,
Yes.
and you really connect with this only character really alive in the book. You know what I mean? And
the other thing that I read some couple things that were the 5 best things about it. There's no bad person. There's no.
You're right. There's
bad
no
guy.
villain.
There's no
Mars.
villain. Yeah, Mars.
Mars is the villain.
And there's just no real villain. So it's a good.
you're right.
It's a good movie. Yeah.
What are 4, 3, 2, and 1?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I skipped through all of them. That was one of the good ones I saw. But
well, hey, you know what? If you guys have read Martian and you guys like it too, you can talk to us about it at comments at UsernameNerd.com, or if you're in the Kansas City area on May 22nd.
20th through the 22nd, I'm pretty sure.
20th through the 22nd, you can come by our booth at Comic-Con.
Yes.
We
have a giveaway we're going to be doing. We're also having giveaways if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, UsernameNerd. You can go to our website at www.usernamenerd.com.
You can follow us on Twitter
at usernamenerd.com. And we've got some really cool things on our YouTube channel. Comics. I'm doing comic summaries. We just started Clash of Clans. We have Minecraft stuff up there.
I want to do some Clash of Clans videos.
Yeah, definitely.
From my new account, the new one. I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
And if you come by the booth at Comic-Con, you can be on the podcast in exchange for electricity, because we figured that's going to cost.
No, I think it's covered.
Yeah.
I know. Someone was like, it's electricity. I'm like,
electricity. It's like
covered.
$1,000 a day. I'm like, what?
No.
No. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say stay nerdy.
Okay, stop. Don't go to the next YouTube video or channel or skip or don't do anything. Real quick, 5 seconds. We have 3 different channels. Please subscribe to them. Username Nerd News, Username Nerd Comics, Username Nerd Games. We have separated them out into 3 ones. Choose all of them or just one to subscribe to. You'd love it. I promise.